Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cup of TV. It is Cookie here for our lunchtime Pick My Brain show. For all those budding founders out there, or maybe you're a founder, an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, a small business owner, this is going to be one of the most important topic areas that you'll be tuning into. Or if you're a big organization that is working with a lot of solo entrepreneurs or founders or small businesses, this is one that's also going to trigger you to think a little bit differently as well. And I can't wait to welcome in Dr. Leanne Faulkner very, very soon. Now, before I do so, welcome to Cuppa. If this is your first time, sit back, relax. Hopefully you got a cuppa in hand and enjoy the program and show. We create shows every single week where we get to pick the brain of beautiful talent that we have in our expert community that can pretty much solve any personal issue or workplace issue that anyone is going through. And trust me, I can live and breathe that comment because we do it every day in every action that we take. Now, before I kick it off, I do want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connections to lands, water and community. I pay my respects to them and to their cultures and to the elders, both past, present and emerging. I always want to say thanks to the First Nations elders and storytellers and wisdom holders who continuously share their journey with us. A lot of the solutions that we seek have been underneath our feet for the last 60,000 years. It's a beautiful learning journey, and I encourage everyone to go on that as well. Well, as a founder myself, as a business owner who struggles a lot, this next topic area is so critical for me to even lean into. And when I first met Leanne Faulkner, I just went, I got someone that understands me. I got someone that can help me. But when she started speaking about all the different layers around how bigger based workplaces like major enterprise, etc., can actually be supporting contractors in a bit more of like treating them like your own employees. It's going to be so critical for this to also lift up the productivity issue. And Leanne's been doing a lot of work in this space. But to give you a little bit more detail, after building the iconic Billie Goat Soap brand, Dr. Leanne Faulkner began asking a simple but important question. Why does running a business so often feel lonely, stressful and overwhelming? That question led her to complete a PhD exploring the mental health of Australia's self-employed workforce. Today, we're discussing what organisations can learn from her research and why building better relationships with contractors benefits everybody. So let's welcome in Dr. Leanne Faulkner. Welcome for your first cuppa. How are you?
Hello, Cookie. Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to cuddle you, Leanne. Like, you just got this beautiful personality that I just go, you know what? But the reason why I even start there is because, firstly, I know you get my world.
Yep.
I know you get my world that I'm experiencing at the moment. But you also get my frustration sometimes around working with bigger based clients because that care doesn't always filter through. So today we're going to go deep. But because this is your first time on Cuppa, I always like to start with, tell us a little bit about your story and why you've become so passionate about supporting people like me.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking me. So, look, back before dinosaurs roamed the earth, I had a corporate background. So I worked in senior positions in large organizations, and I worked in the area of like HR, organizational development, learning and development, those areas, and did a lot of work around strategic, strategic thinking and problem solving, a whole range of things. So anyway, I had met my fantastic husband, who I think is watching today.
Hey, hubby.
Shout out to Johnny. So anyway, met my fantastic husband. We moved up to the Central Coast. So that's where I am now, actually, in Gosford on the coast. And we had a number of children. The youngest child had eczema. There's 5 children in the family. So we're the ultimate blended, whatever you want to call us, reconstituted something. 5 kids in the family, and the youngest had eczema, and a couple of the oldest had eczema as well. And so we thought, we've got this in the bag, but we didn't. Nothing worked. And I just happened to have some dairy goats on our property, and did some research because that's my background, and found out goat's milk soap is supposedly good for people with sensitive skin, and thought, I've got goats. I'm actually not crafty or arty in any way, right? So it was kind of a random thought. I've got milk. I'm going to try and make some soap. And so I made some really bad soap for a very long time, but gave it to friends and family, as you do, when you're a candle maker or whatever. Yes. And they gave me good feedback. And eventually I made a product that helped Liam. And then that turned into Billie Goat Soap. And so we started that business in 2004 in my kitchen on a Saturday night.
Love it.
Grew the business. So over an 8-year period, by the time we sold it in 2012, we had over 2,000 retailers around the country that were selling the product. And in fact, back in the day, goat's milk soap wasn't even a category. So we had created that category and market. And then we had about, I think, 5 or 6 international markets as well. So we were working with overseas distributors at the same time. But of course, the business slowed down towards the end of our tenure with it. And like any, entrepreneur or founder, I just took that so personally.
Yeah.
I must be doing something wrong. And anytime I opened a paper or read something online, it was always about an entrepreneur who's doing these amazing things. And that just made me feel worse because, if we think of an entrepreneur, we think typically, successful, can overcome any obstacle, buying an island, driving a fancy car. That's so not it, is it, right?
No, it's definitely not it.
Yeah, that was part of my undoing. And in fact, it was the very end of the GFC. So back in the day, retailing had slowed, even though I think it was, Kevin Rudd or someone who gave everyone $1,000. Nobody woke up and went, I'm going to buy soap. Nobody did that. So I just felt like I was trying everything and nothing was working. And I had to make a lot of very tough decisions, had to make people redundant, had to sit down with the bank and talk to them. It was a very, very hard time. And as a result of that, I ended up not being able to work. And so I was diagnosed with situational depression. My fabulous partner, my husband, John, he stepped in and ran the business in that period when I couldn't do that. And how lucky was I to have and still have such an amazing person in my life. And so I was diagnosed with depression. So if you've had depression, you often get insomnia with it. And so I would find myself at midnight sitting at my computers typing in small business owner and stress, entrepreneur not coping, a small business owner feeling worried, to see if there was anything out there that actually helped me as the owner of the business. And there was a lot out there for employees and a lot out there for sports people, but nothing that spoke to me. So that kind of got me on this journey. So for the past 14 years, I've been working as a small business mental health advocate. Pretty much any program that you could name, like New Access for small business owners, which I love, some of the ASB FEO work, any of those types of programs I've probably had something to do with along the line. And then I started teaching small business growth and development for the University of Newcastle. And they said to me, why don't you do your PhD? I did my PhD with the School of Business. I could have done it with the School of Health because we're talking mental health, but I realized we needed to have many more conversations with entrepreneurs and business owners. And so that's the breeding ground, really, isn't it, School of Business? So I chose to do my PhD there, and I look specifically at the unique challenges and stressors that sole traders and micro business owners face and what makes it unique, and therefore what do we need to do differently to ensure that this group, which by the way is the largest business group in Australia, to ensure that this group can actually thrive at work, because we as an economy, we need them thriving, we need them contributing. And so that's really the work that I did. So if excuse me, if you think back to 2024, and I think that was probably around, I don't know, November 2024, you might have noticed that one morning you heard a very, very loud shriek. That was me submitting my PhD for the final time. I think all of Australia went, oh, Leanne's finally submitted.
I love that.
And ever since then, I've been working in this space, either helping the self-employed to better understand the really clever ways that they might be able to reduce stress and worry at work so that they enjoy every single day, even the tough days. But more importantly, because we're so connected and we don't do it alone, we don't look after our mental health in a bubble. We're actually dependent on the people that we work with. And when you're a sole trader, that's typically a corporate or a government agency that you're supplying to, right? So more importantly, nowadays, I'm working to help large organizations understand what they do with their self-employed suppliers, with the consultants, with the experts, the contractors, how they work with them actually makes a difference to engagement and therefore productivity for everybody. So it's an area you probably might tell I'm passionate about.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to unpack that throughout the conversation today. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing the journey. I know you shared it with me previously, but it's always good to reiterate and hear it again. I've got a question that's going totally off script.
Yeah, sure.
But for me, I want to, like, because many people are either, they might be watching today as a founder themselves.
Yeah.
They might have a partner who is a founder and they're watching on behalf of the partner. They might be in a workplace wanting to support people as well. But let's look at the founder journey.
Yes.
Let's say I'm about to start my first business. What would be your first comment to me, Leanne?
My first comment would be, actually, you are not your business.
Okay.
That would be my first comment. You always remember that you are not your business, and your business is inevitably going to go up and down. We've all heard the roller coaster analogy. It's going to go up and down. That does not mean that you change from being a good person to a bad person, or a good, competent person to someone who doesn't know anything and is dumb. That's actually wrong. The business goes up and down, but you remain the good person that you are right at the beginning. That would be the first thing I'd say. That's what I wish someone had told me actually initially. So
do I. I like that. That feels good.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
A lot of us become self-employed because we want the freedom and flexibility. Why doesn't that reality always match the expectation, Leanne?
Yeah. Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Okay. So let me just tell you quickly, this is what happened with me in my PhD. So when I started it, I actually thought I knew the answers. A big mistake, big mistake, really humbling. But what happened was, because I interviewed, it was 34 sole traders, micro business owners, and they had to be, and it was long interviews, right? Long interviews, but they had to be in business for more than 2 years, because our experience of business changes depending upon where the business stage is actually at. So if I'm a startup and I'm working 60 hours a week, for example, that's kind of like a badge of honor because you've got adrenaline going, you're getting it off the ground, you're really doing it, good on you. But if you've been in business for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and you're working 60 hours a week, you're probably facing burnout, and that's resentment. So the point of view is quite different. So I was very passionate. It had to be more than 2 years, past the startup stuff. Anyway, what I couldn't reconcile was people were telling me, oh, I love being, my own boss. I've got all this freedom and flexibility, and, I could never go back and work for someone else again. And I'd be going, that's great. That's fantastic, And then the next morning I'd wake up and I'd read a report in the Fin or, an industry report that says, or a COSBOA report that says, 72% of all small business owners report that they're really stressed. And so I couldn't just reconcile, like, how is it that everyone's telling me that they love being self-employed and having this freedom, but they're really stressed and unhappy, which is the point of the PhD. So I changed the questions. Gee, I wish my supervisors were watching, because that really is it. It's about adjusting things as you go. So instead of saying, what is it that you love, I started to dig a little bit deeper. And that's where the reality of understanding what true freedom and what true flexibility actually looks like. Because, I had someone telling me, look, I love the fact that I can walk my dog on a Wednesday morning and I know everyone else has gone to work. And I can just come back to my office and, get into it. And I said to them, okay, so let me give you an example. Say, for example, you've got a major telco, let's just call it a telco, and you're doing some marketing work for a telco, and it's due on the Friday. That telco calls you, contacts you, emails you and says, Leanne, I know your work was due on the Friday, but our, C-suite has moved it to the Wednesday. Can you get that done? So I posed that question to the people I was interviewing and said to them, what do you do? And so many of them said to me, oh, well, I'd have to change my walk on a Wednesday. Because I said, do you tell them that you're out of the office on a Wednesday morning and therefore couldn't meet that change in deadline? You don't have to tell them you're walking the dog, but, can you tell them that you're out? They went, oh, no, because I don't want them to think that I can't do the job. And I want future work from these people. So if I have to change it, I'll just have to walk on a different day. I'll just have to take the dog that night and not go in the morning, for example. Now, when I dug down deeper, that's just, one quick example, but when I dug down deeper, what that actually told me that we need to really carefully define what true flexibility and freedom really looks like. Because if you're finding that you're constantly making adjustments and changes because somebody's, the customer has come and asked maybe to do something for free when they're not paying you, change a deadline, pay less, whatever it happens to be. All of these things signal that maybe you don't quite have the level of freedom you imagined that you had. And that's the problem, because it is that level of freedom and it is that autonomy that gives us joy when we're self-employed. When what we want, freedom, autonomy, flexibility, when how we imagine it's going to be when we're self-employed doesn't match with the reality. So with the telco telling me and suddenly I have to change things, when it doesn't match, what we end up with in the middle is stress or the risk of stress. So
it resonates a lot.
Right.
And as a put up my hand people pleaser and have been all my life, and not really good with my boundaries, and I am ripe for what you're talking about.
Right. And look, I wish I could show you, the reflections in my notes as I was talking to so many of these small, and even today, I sit next to somebody in a networking meeting and they'll tell me about their experience and what's happened. It's a common story. It's not just out of the PhD. So what it does actually, I hope, is it encourages the self-employed person, the consultant, whatever, to stop and think about how free am I? How flexible am I? Do I really have that? Now, remember, not everybody was stressed. So there were people in the study that went, that doesn't bother me, that's fine. I don't mind. But there are other people that went, I'm missing my son's soccer, or you might as well get a job.
Kid stuff,
kid stuff is hard, right?
So in your research, you talk about job design rather than simply stress management. What do you mean by that?
So I mean by actually getting clever about the way we structure work as self-employed people. So the reason that that's important is because, look, I think having the traditional approaches to stress management is really important. So things like, yes, drink lots of water, get 8 hours worth of sleep, exercise every day, all of those things are important, but they treat symptoms and not the cause. Job design, or thinking about the way we structure, the way we do things, actually gives somebody who's self-employed a lot of power, and power actually is the key to long-term sustainable stress reduction. So the more powerful I feel as the owner of the business, then the more I'm able to exercise control over, there's three key things. How do I work? Who do I want to work with? And when do I want to work? So power allows me to actually control those three things, and control gives me greater choice to choose how I'm going to do that. And that is true autonomy and flexibility at work. That is actually living the dream. So
just say those three questions again.
How do I work?
Yep.
When do I want to work? And who do I want to work with? I think the who's really important. I don't know about you, Cookie, but have you ever had an instance where you've done a contract with somebody that you don't necessarily particularly would want to work with? Maybe you shouldn't answer that.
For money, no.
I'm
very fortunate that we weed out a lot of people in the business type that we operate in, and I love all my clients because they're exceptional. Yeah. And But there is challenges though that I don't accept with, like, that I don't work with them on. And I know we'll get to this, but some of them are on like a 90-day payment term, and it's like,
Right.
I need to pay people, man. Like,
Yeah,
so
right,
it's
right.
like little things like this, like,
Yeah.
add to the frustration, I suppose, which could make it easier. Will make me want to work harder if I know that I'm, like, another example, right? I've got a beautiful client, Bentia,
Yeah.
that because I'm a social enterprise,
Yeah.
they reduced it to a 2-week payment term versus a 75-day
Right.
payment term. But if I didn't ask that question, I wouldn't have got there either, by the way. But,
Right.
like, it's,
Right.
yeah. So to go back to your client question, yes, I should be only accepting clients that believe in who we are and what we do,
Right.
care about
Right.
humanity,
Right.
and
That's
people, and
Right.
say what they're going to do as well. Like, they're not just talkers, they doers. So
Right. And so imagine, like, that's exactly right, Cookie. That's what I'm talking about. So imagine being somebody who's in a role where you don't feel you have the freedom to work with the people that you really enjoy working with, where you have to. And I remember this in my Billie Goat days. I remember days of, having to work with a client that was giving me $120,000 monthly orders, but they were also making me beg for the invoices to be paid, which is demeaning, right? So having that juggle between, I really need the money, but gee, they don't treat me well, can wear you down and be stressful. And so that's the sort of thing that came up.
Because that to me is probably my biggest, like, I think most small businesses' challenge is cash flow. It's cash flow, payment terms,
Right.
client relationships, maintaining that.
Okay,
That must have a direct influence on a person's well-being.
Absolutely does. So let's talk about that, right? So if we understand that power and control really is the elixir to stressing less as a business owner, understanding your own power and control, that directly relates back to that whole financial acumen as well. So you can teach me, for example, how to do a downward dog. You can tell me to put lavender on my pillow. You can encourage me to have a hot chocolate before I go to bed. But if there's no money in my bank account to pay my mortgage, or there's no money to pay someone who's, supplied a good to me, or there's no money to pay my statutory bills, which is another story. But anyway, if that's the sort of case, it doesn't matter how many downward dogs I do, I am still going to wake up at 2 a.m. and worried that I don't have money in my bank account. So financial literacy is a key lever to feeling powerful as a small business owner. And it's about having good systems and processes and education in place to be able to pull the levers that make you feel powerful. And that varies for each of us. So for me, for example, if I know that I've got a good, an estimated sales funnel 3 months ahead, I feel a little bit comfortable because I know I'm going to be invoicing as it goes along. For some of us, it's having, a really good understanding of profit margins. For some of us, it's about understanding that a 90-day payment term is completely unacceptable. So I'm going to change my policy that says, I need to meet you halfway here. I want a 50% prepayment, and then you can pay me 50% on 90 days, for example, if that's
so funny, because as a small business, sometimes we just don't feel like we have that flex to ask.
And that comes back to power. So, and that's exactly my PhD is so what are the things then that I need to do that make me feel powerful so that I can ask without worrying that that's going to cost me the relationship. And it's important to remember too that, like I said it right at the beginning, it's actually a two-way street. So I'm actually, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you might notice that I'm actually a bit over everyone doing these free resources for small business owners to go and heal thyself. It's like I said, there's no point teaching me how to breathe in a square if the same agency that's put up the free website doesn't pay me for 70 days. like that agency actually needs to learn how to
So
heal me.
it's a system problem.
Yeah,
as well.
it's actually a business ecosystem, and that was the ultimate finding from my PhD.
Right.
I'll just save you all the trouble of reading, 100,000 words. The ultimate finding was that the mental health of a sole trader or a micro business owner is dependent upon the support of everybody who is in their business ecosystem so that they can thrive and continue to thrive at work. It's not their sole responsibility. It's actually not. It's particularly got to do with the corporate clients that I work with. They have a huge role to play. And look, you had that fantastic launch last week in the discussion about productivity.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. They have a massive role to play in boosting the productivity of the self-employed suppliers that they engage to come and help them complete projects.
Which is great, because this is where I wanted to get to as well, because this is where you're now challenging organizations, enterprise and any other organization that is working a lot with contractors or sole traders in the ecosystem. So let's go there, because I personally, when you started talking about this to me, going, I don't think I've ever heard this as a topic inside an organization on what are we doing to support contractors who play a massive role in our cultural dynamics of our business, our success of our business. Right. And if we're treating them like crap, like, how are we expecting them to give them the best results?
Right. Exactly right. And it's such a hot topic, Cookie, because over the last 5 years, sole traders is the fastest growing business category in this country. It's grown by 21% over the last 5 years. Let's get a Venn diagram out. Let's not, because we'll put everyone to sleep. But let's get a Venn diagram out and start to overlap skill shortages in this country with the growth of sole traders.
Yeah.
So where are our subject matter experts going? If we want true freedom, flexibility at work, well, they're probably starting to opt to work for themselves, and they're going to opt into projects as experts, as corporates and government agencies require them. So please understand, when I talk about contractors, I'm not talking about those that sign up for, a 12-month contract in the one organization. They're like a pseudo traditional employee. I'm talking about someone who is absolutely self-employed, who would probably have multiple contracts happening at any given time. So, and we know we've got skill shortages in some key areas. So, for example, if you're working in the health services area, maybe you're a health insurer and you're providing services like physiotherapy, dentistry, podiatry, you need to actually be really starting to take notice about these self-employed people who are contracting to help you deliver your services. If you work in construction, that's always a given, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you work in construction, but particularly, let's talk about housing development and mining in remote areas. You're already going to be competing for the most talented subbies to work on your project. So that's a massive area. But importantly, if you're working, say, in a corporation where you're wanting to address cybersecurity, let's not name any telcos in that one at the moment, but if you're working in that area and you want your experts, they're going to be self-employed, I'm telling you. So, and that's a skill shortage area, right? So this is actually the hidden workforce. We spend a lot of time talking about what we're going to do to engage paid traditional employees, but we need to start having this conversation now, because I'm telling you, the wave of change is coming, and flexible workforces are the way of the future. And that is a blend of self-employed people working alongside paid employees. And if you don't know how to engage the self-employed suppliers, which is very different to a traditional employee, if you don't know how to do that, then you're going to be really struggling to get your projects done with the right talent mix that you think you need.
From your experience, and again, because I've tackled a lot of conversations inside organizations, right? I haven't even thought about this topic area, which is why I'm so excited to have you as part of the ecosystem, because you're going,
thank you for having me.
We need to talk more about this. And I'm not only just buying into it. I want to ask you a question though. Like, from your experience with major organizations, do they have the same sort of, do any companies do it well where they treat their employees, well, they're not treating their employees that well in the first place, but but treating their employees and contractors in a similar type of model?
Look, I'm working on that at the moment. I've got to tell you that many see the relationship with self-employed suppliers as transactionally based. And if you see it as a transaction, if you think that, oh, well, I pay them a good consulting fee or I pay them a great hourly rate, and if you think that that is enough to engage this workforce, you're really going to miss out, because it really isn't. When you think about what we know about engagement at work, so for example, this idea of a psychological contract, that extends to your self-employed community. So if you've got someone that's, feeling a bit like they've got to navigate their own way to contribute to your goals, maybe you haven't even told them the goals of the organization. You've just sent them out a contract to sign.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it is.
And that's it. Or worse still, you call for submissions and then you don't actually get back to all of these self-employed people that have. I can't get my head around that, because these are the workforces of the future. You've got to be building relationships beyond the transaction of, you've got a good hourly rate, you're self-employed, isn't that enough? Well, the answer is no. It's actually not if you want the best productivity out of me.
That's exactly right. And if you want that person to be able to react quickly to your needs as well, if you're treating them well at times.
So many other things. Like, the beauty of having someone self-employed contribute to a project is that they're going to bring that cross-fertilization of ideas because they've worked in other businesses. Now, that's not to say they're going to give away trade secrets. I'm sure that they wouldn't do that. But what they're going to do is go, hang on a second, have you thought about doing it this way? And if you don't actively engage that whole person above and beyond an hourly rate, they're probably going to go, they don't care. They don't want to hear from me. I've got a great idea, but they don't care.
You know what I loved? And so I'm bringing them up again, but Ventia, they asked me because they're working on this model, which is around helping their employees find their further, and Together We Go Further is their new brand proposition. They actually asked me, as a partner, what would you want as part of this partnership? So Together We Go Further.
Right.
But that was a simple question. And it made me think, going, you sharing your strategy, your brand, your overview, I'm bought in. So I'm ready to act on that.
Exactly.
Bringing in other partners so they can network with each other and grow together is another way.
Great example. Onboarding is so critical.
Onboarding is so critical.
To a self-employed person coming
most
into
of the time it's just make sure where's your public liability, where's your give me all the certificates, please, person.
That's right.
Make me go through a 30-page document to even get onboarded in your system.
How does that engage me in your organization? I'm a sole trader, for example. If you set a criteria that I need $15,000 in public liability and I work from home.
15 mil.
That's right, 15 mil, sorry, in public liability, and I work from home and the only meetings we're going to have are via Zoom, suddenly you've created an incredible barrier to entry that is going to have me disillusioned that you don't really care about who I am and what I have to say. All of these things create bottlenecks. And so I have a diagnostic service that corporates can actually talk to me about using, where we can identify the areas that actually facilitate high engagement for self-employed people. And that's the kind of thing, Cookie, that is spot on. I can't tell you, the sole traders I've sat next to at lunch who've gone, I've worked for this business, I'm in Sydney, they're in Sydney, I've worked for this, I've supplied projects to this business for 5 years. They've never once invited me to Friday night drinks. They've never asked me to come to a Christmas party, but I've been sort of sitting here on the edge of their team for, 5 years. And I think that's wasted opportunities.
We've got a question that's popped up from YouTube that I need to put on there, and I'm very keen to hear what your response is going to be to this. No, don't be nervous. Billie Goat Soap. 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 Billie someone right here. My question is that there are people wanting to come across as contractors, but have been employees for years and need to understand I'm their client, not their employer as well. That value exchange or that understanding is critical at that time.
Yes, and so I'm not talking, and that's, I really love the question, because that's where the distinction comes in. It's not about treating me as an employee. I'm not expecting that, but I will thrive where you create conditions where I feel engaged in your organization without being an employee. And it comes back to the very beginning. Thank you for that question, by the way. It comes back to the very beginning of our discussion around power.
Yes.
So both parties actually have a role in power in this dynamic. We as self-employed people, we're really looking for a sense of, it's not power over, it's not power with, it's power to have the flexibility that I want, power to work the work that I want. And for organizations, if they need to come from not only power to get our projects finished, but power with. And we need to understand the roles that they play, because if we understand that as a relationship, I don't want to be your employee, remember? I want the freedom, flexibility, I want the dream, So, but if we understand how power plays out in our relationship, that company is going to get the most out of me, and I'm going to enjoy every single day at work. So it's a win-win for both of us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it is like there's so much me, you, like where's the we conversation in all of this?
Yeah, that's right.
And if we want to give the best experience for our customers, if we want to give the best experience for our employees, the same's got a ladder to every touch point that you have in a business.
Right. Exactly.
So we've got to think about the total experience of what our organization is delivering to the people that are there as potential supporters, which is sometimes the biggest opportunity as a best marketing message for your business.
Right. Exactly right. So
all right, we're getting close to time. I want to if an organization wanted to become more freelancer friendly, where should they start?
They need to start by really thinking about that. We touched on it. They need to start thinking about that psychological contract and the relationship that they're actually creating. Is it transactional or is it relational? And there's a difference there. So I would strongly suggest starting there. Think about doing some sort of audit or diagnostic. Think about onboarding. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. You really do want to make sure that this person is giving 100% all the time, and they want to do that. Think about the way you communicate. Do I know what your values are as an organization, what your purpose is? Am I aligned? And that was a discussion that started to come up the other day, didn't it, on the panel discussion, Cookie?
My challenge is that one in five people are engaged in a workplace. That means four out of five are disengaged or actively disengaged. If we have an employee issue where our employees are not engaged, how are they engaging our contractors who are dealing with them on a day-to-day basis?
Right. And that's the other thing. Actually, I love that. That's the other thing too. It comes down to education. So you might have a fantastic policy and process around onboarding freelancers and sole traders, but at that line level, it's time to start doing education for our project leaders, HR managers, and procurement managers, where they understand, how do I navigate my relationship with the people that I have as contractors or, suppliers coming into the business? How do I navigate my relationship with them? And it's about extending their skills. They're already doing it well with employees. How do I do it with this workforce?
So good. I could chat to you forever, Leanne. In fact, I don't think this is not going to be our last conversation. I'm getting fired up for you, but I like this because I get to get deeper, and as this is our first conversation together, it's sort of sparked a little bit of a firecracker up.
And thanks for making the space to have this discussion. I really do appreciate that a lot.
Well, it's all laddering to the same issue we have. Like, people are burnt out, they're stressed more than ever before. No matter if you're a founder or an employee, we are not building capacity. Our systems are clogging the system.
Right.
And things need to change in all areas, and we can't be sitting here silent, and whilst the economy is burning a hole, people are struggling to even make ends meet. More and more people may be displaced, and that might get them into the solo entrepreneur journey and the freelancer journey.
Yes.
And they're not ready for it. And financially,
Correct.
they're struggling. That leads to relationship breakdowns. That leads to mental health. That leads to suicide. Like, you can't, the domino is real. It's one thing, but it all starts with us creating spaces for people to thrive in the journeys that they're on. And if businesses can't see this, if CEOs and C-suite can't see this, that's where the issue sits. We're going to take some gutsy decisions to move this needle forward. And for solo entrepreneurs who want to do the best for themselves, for their families, for the businesses that they work in, like, it's time for their voice to be heard properly as well. And I'm glad you're here doing that.
It is. Everyone deserves that right to thrive, even the person who owns the business.
Now, if you're sitting there going, oh, I need to share this with my leadership team, oh, I want to pick Leanne's brain a little bit further, Leanne's part of our beautiful community. If you check it out online, it is called the Cuppa Collective. We have multiple experts from all different topic areas, but you can find out a little bit more about Leanne. You can book in a connection call, find out a little bit more about her. Some videos are there. What are your fun facts? Well, that's all right. Oh, you're a Rotary volunteer.
I am.
You know how to cook a mean snag at a Bunnings barbecue, do you?
I do. Gosford City Rotary. That's me. And in fact, we do a wellness walk in October as well, so that I organise because of the whole mental health thing. So
good, Leanne. Again, I'm so grateful that you're a part of our community, where you're not only adding your voice, but, you know, if you are an organisation watching today, or if you're in an organisation watching today, I suppose that is the last question I want to leave you with, Leanne. Like, if someone goes, oh shit, we're not doing that, or we need to be doing this more, like, how do they approach this with their senior leadership team, where action can actually happen?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing is obviously to have a discussion, understand what percentage of your workforce is actually flexible.
Oh, that's a great one. Just start there.
Start there, and have a discussion that says, what are we doing to maximize productivity with this hidden workforce? What are we doing there? And that's a good place to start. And then, like I said, there's diagnostic tools, and there's education and advisory services that I'm able to help with if that helps.
Reach out. The link was in the post before, so please do click on that. Check out, and thank you so much, Leanne, for joining us today. It's been a real privilege.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for forming part of Cuppa. We tackle all different topics of conversations. This is just one of many. If you want to join our free community, you'll never miss a heartbeat of any of the conversations that we have, from perimenopause to mental health to laughter yoga. Like, literally, there's not a topic we don't cover. Why? Because it all ladders up to our own well-being, connection, and, you know, just generally just feeling like we're a human again. So please make sure that you do join our free community online at cuppa.tv. That is it for today. I'll see you next week, where we've got, I think, our intergenerational movement circle is happening next week. It's a new format that we're testing. It's where multiple of our experts come together. I'm not the host. I'm not asking questions. They actually just chew it out themselves. They ask each other questions. And we want to get perspectives of all different topic areas. So please make sure that you tune into that show, and you'll find out more on cuppa.tv. That is it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll catch you soon. See you later. Bye.